and welcome back to the What Was I Thinking podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Syatt. I am happy to be here. I am excited. We had a great week last week. We're about to have another great week this week. It was quite a week, though. I'm going to be honest. Did anyone else have a rough time coming back from 420? I did. I mean, I'm not, okay. If you didn't know, now you know, or you're about to know. I took a large quantity of edibles for a decade. Just thousands of milligrams a day. Like, not every day, but twice a week. And then usually on the weekends for a large chunk of a decade. I took a lot of edibles. And then for the past 5-6 months where I've been trying to lose weight, I have slowed down on the edibles. I still do it once or twice a month. It's going to end up in my comedy. I was gonna say routine, but I sound like it's not, it's like an act. It's gonna end up as a joke one day. When I got to my mom's, I got high a couple times and she didn't know, and then I told her, just I don't know why, and I'll never forget this for as long as I live. We were in her room, she was in her bed, and I walked in and she goes, "How am I gonna get you off of these things?" Like it's heroin, which it is to her. But I took 100 milligrams on 420 this past week, and it took me probably about a day to recover. And when I say recover, I had a great 421. It was awesome. I was high most of the day, and stuff was funnier. Food tasted, my dinner was delicious. So, like, there's no negative. I'm just saying, I was high for about 30 hours. And, like, not like I can't do anything. I can still hold my shit. Don't fuck with me. I can still be high and, hold my shit together, hold conversations. I'm not gonna. I have been in bed with my eyeballs vibrating, and that's why I can't watch the movie Friday anymore. I don't know if you guys know that. One of the first times Joey got me high, I will never forget it. I was in my first apartment in LA, which was they have these little, they call them bungalows to make them sound nicer and cooler, but what they are little square shoeboxes that the movie studios in LA I think I heard the 20s made to put their actors in because they paid them so little they couldn't afford a place to live, and they can't be homeless because they need them to look pretty on camera. So it was a little tiny shoebox. My bedroom literally fit my queen bed, and that's about it. And it was one of the first times Joey got me high. I don't remember which kind of edible it was, but I got home and I was stoned out of my mind. And this is how I knew I was stoned. My eyeballs, these things that you can't really see anymore, bang, oh, that's scary. That thing right there was vibrating. Like, you know how your phone goes zzz, zzz, my eyeball is going zzz, zzz, zzz. And it's weird. I actually enjoyed it. I was like, I've heard the term chasing the dragon before, and I've been chasing the eyeball vibrating dragon ever since that day, and it has not come back. But I tried to watch the movie Friday, which is a good movie. I still, in my heart, I know I enjoy it, but I just can't watch it because I got so high that night that I could see them acting. Like life was sort of in slow motion. So I would see the director saying action and him being pause and then go into the line. So I have not watched Friday in about 11 years. So I'm gonna have to watch that again pretty soon. I used to love it. It's a great movie. But I got so high that the movie Friday, a movie that you're supposed, when they sell you the movie Friday, they check first. Are you going to get high when you watch this? And if you say no, that's fuck you, nerd. Go watch Bill Nye the Science Guy or something. I don't know. Hi, Bill. But that's how high I got. And That's how high. I wasn't that, obviously, I wasn't, my eyes weren't on 420, but it was a fun day after. And then I'm very happy that I didn't get high and watch. If you're listening to this in the future, I apologize. But this past weekend, shout out to Theo, there was a UFC fight. It was Usman versus Masvidal 2, live from Jacksonville, Florida. And there were two of the most brutal leg injuries that I have ever seen. And I remember where I was. I was at Dave and Buster's, and I saw Weidman versus Silva, and with my high school best friend, his wife, and my ex. And I remember seeing Anderson's leg break, and then I saw Weidman's leg break, and it was so rough because in the slow-mo they showed it, and at first his face was like, everything's cool, and then he put it down, and you know when you step in dog shit, obviously not as bad as your leg completely shattering, but almost. It's like leg shattering, stepping in dog shit. Like, they're almost touching. I'm joking. I'm sorry, Chris. But when you step in it and you realize what's happened, he had that same thing happen, but instead of, taking a hose and rubbing and spraying your foot off, his foot was no longer attached to his leg. So that was rough. And the Anthony, God dang it, I'm not looking it up. The guy who fought John Jones, you guys, is it Anthony Smith? That sounds about right. He kicked a gentleman in the knee, and then his leg was still attached, thankfully. But I didn't know that if you kick somebody in the knee, that in the right spot, that their leg is it's just not working anymore. I'm sure. I hope it's working now. I'm sure it is. But I have decided to never walk again. I'm done. I'm going to go full Wally and just gain 700 pounds and float and wait for death. No, I'm sorry. That's dark. But yeah, that was rough. It was a great night of fights. I keep watching the Masvidal knockout. Jorge was great to me when I met him. I was pulling for him, which probably why he lost. People would ask me on social media who I'm rooting for, and I didn't tell anybody. I know whenever I pick anybody, they lose. So just in my head, I was hoping you'd win because I like you. So maybe from now on, I should just pretend I hate everyone who I want to win. But I keep watching that knockout, and I remember from the fights that they poured water on his head in between rounds, and I'm wondering if he fired that guy. Because that, just the fact when it connected that the water just went, it looked like a Sprite commercial. It looked like a Sprite. Actually, Jorge, obviously I know you're probably pretty bummed about this, but if you wanted to make a good Sprite commercial, that would work. I'm sorry. Please don't beat me up. I'm trying to make it funny, and I really do like you. And I'm sorry that you had to lose. I'm begging for my life on my own podcast that he doesn't listen to. But it was fun. It was a crazy week. I have a crazy month coming up. I'm very excited. When you guys listen to this, I will be moving into my first ever office. I am very excited. I can't really afford it, but we're going to try. It's month to month. So if I move out, you know why. But I'm excited. I have a lot of plans for it. I think I'm going to name it, I don't know. I was going to call it the Jew's Nest, caca, but my mom said that would hurt her feelings. So I have to either come up with a new name or hope that she never watches this or any other video I make. The whole thing for me, I don't care about the name, the Jew's Nest, but I like going caca. Like, caca, the Jew's Nest. I feel terrible. But that's what I'm thinking about calling it. If you have a better name, let me know. I like it. Caca. but I'm moving in, and then I'm excited. I get to go to Denver this month in about 3 weeks, something around that. I'm going to be in Denver, not for comedy. I'm going to be doing a little bit of work, but I am going to go get some green chili. I'm saving my calories for some green chili. It's delicious. But I do got to say, has anybody flown recently? Because I haven't. This is the first time I've flown since I went to Phoenix with Lucas Earl and Steve Simone. God, it was probably, I think it was late 2019. I think it was either late 2019 or very early 2020. But we had a blast. But that was the last time I flew. And when I found out that I was going to Denver, I went to go book my flight. And it turns out the airlines all had a meeting, and they decided to say, fuck you, period. Just fuck you. Because flying was already awful. It was already terrible. And they were like, well, let's see how much worse we can make it, because people didn't fly for a year, and now we want your money. They've completely gotten rid. There's 2 direct flights from Boston to Denver. That's it. I'm flying now at 5:30 in the morning, and I live an hour away from the airport. So that's going to be a fun day. And then I chose to fly Southwest. I actually kind of like Southwest, if you want to sponsor me. But I like it for a couple of reasons. A, the only place now that is not charging for bags. And they also, by the way, I don't know if you know this, places like JetBlue, who I used to love, other airlines, if you book just a regular coach ticket, you can't even bring a carry-on anymore. You don't have to readjust your headset. You can't bring a carry-on for free. You can bring a backpack, but that's it. Like for your computer and your snacks. That's what I would put that's what was in my backpack. Computer, headphones, and snacks. But they charge you now to bring a carry-on. They charge you to pick your seat. And that bag, if you want to do check-in, I saw upwards of $35. It used to be $25, which is already too much. I saw it up to like almost $40 each way. Which that's why I chose Southwest. And I actually also like Southwest because I get anxiety about almost everything. And I don't like it when it tells you when you're boarding, and I'm group C, let's just say. It's always towards the end because I don't fly a lot or first class. I did fly first class once. It was amazing. Someone else paid for it. I was not sitting on his lap, I promise you. But when I'm in group C and I sit down and I'm eating my croissant and I'm having my hot cocoa and I'm just waiting like a good little boy who was told, when we call group C, you can come up. And I'm like, okay, I bet everyone else is going to follow these rules. Nope, they don't. As soon as anyone starts boarding, even if they're in group Z, they just go to the front and they're like, I got to be first in group Z. Sit down, relax. So that is why I like Southwest, because you line up in the order, like it's middle, like they treat us like we're 6-year-olds. And because apparently we are, like you line up, and I'm A17, and then A26 tries to jump in front of me. I say, fuck you, back of the line, motherfucker. But I like Southwest for that. I do have to say I'm excited to fly Southwest again because now I am hopeful that I will fit in their seat a little bit better than last time. This is when I should have started losing weight. When I flew to Phoenix with Steve and Lucas, I don't remember if we bought tickets at the last minute or changed our flight or something, but for some reason we got on last. We were getting on last. And I, as a big person, know that I don't fit really in middle seats. I don't like middle seats, and they don't like me because I don't like being touched. I just don't. It makes I don't. I like my space, um, and middle seats are not good for that, especially when you're over 300 pounds. I'm not anymore. I swear. I have picture evidence. But when I got onto this flight, I got in the back, and I was walking to the front because you're allowed to do that in Burbank, and I was hoping to find a window. I like the window. I like the window. I scooch in. I lean against the wall, and I'm out of everybody's way. I eat my little snacks. I watch my little TV, and then we're good. But no, on this fateful day, only middle seats. I literally almost was like, I'll just come in later or not come at all, because I hate middle seats, and it was an hour flight. But luckily, the gods shined upon me that day, and some gentleman who was with his mother, and he was probably just looking out for his mom's health and safety, because he was probably in his 40s or 50s, so I'm assuming she was somewhere between 60 and 80, depending. And she was an older lady, which is fine, very pretty, very nice. And I would have broken all of the bones in her body. So he looked at me, he said, "Would you like the aisle?" And I said, "Yes, please." And I barely fit. I don't. I used to do a thing where when I would fly that a lot of the older planes, their seatbelts were made for the 1980s size person, and I am a 2020 size person, and a large one at that. Much smaller now. I don't think I'm going to require a seatbelt extender. I hope not. But when I used to, and I was in denial of how fat I was. I would refuse to ask for them and buy them, and I would just put the little seatbelt under my tummy. And the flight attendants collectively agreed that they were not paid enough to touch my tummy and check to see if I was buckled up, to check to see if I was buckled up, and they just let me go. So I'm excited to get on there, and I think I'll be able to fit in a normal seatbelt, which most of you are like, wow, that is not much to be excited about, and to that I agree. Yeah, I shouldn't be excited about it, but I am, and I'm excited to go to Denver and have some green chili, like I said, and just stay in a hotel. When you're sleeping in the twin bed that you grew up in, the idea of a king bed in a hotel room sounds magical. I'm very excited for it. But here's the deal. I have a great guest for you this week. I really do. His name is Cassius Morris. He is my future employer. That's a joke right now, but I know it's going to come true. He started podcasting when he was 14, before most people 2 or 3 times his age had even thought about it. He started in 2014 and has made a life for himself. It's very impressive. He is a professional podcaster, getting paid to do it, and he was on The Church with Joey a bunch. He called into Adam Carolla's show. He called into TMZ. Listen to this. He has a couple shows. First of all, he has one on, he is a host of a show on Watch Mojo, and I will have the name of that show in the outro because I am unprepared and don't exactly remember the name of it. But it is on Watch Mojo. I know that for a fact. And he also has his regular podcast, the podcast that I've been on multiple times, called The Cassius Morris Show. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I found it, Cassius. Look at me. It's called Inner Sleeve. I knew it had something to do with vinyl. I almost said vinyl something, but it's not. His name on Watch and Sound Mojo is called Inner Sleeve. He hosts that, and he's had some great guests on that show, and he's also had some great guests other than me on the Cassius Morris Show, and I've written some of them down. Listen to this. I see I'm ready for some of it. He's had Bruce Buffer on. He's had RJ Mitt. The son from Breaking Bad. He's had Gene Simmons on, And of course, he's had Syatt on. So I know you're gonna watch all that first, and he's had a lot more. He's up into the 200s of his episodes, so he's doing great. Give him a follow at Cassius Morris, I believe. Let me double check. I have it open right here. I am not very professional. Yes, his Twitter is at Cassius, Cassius. That's two S's. Cassius. And his last name is Morris. Morris. It's at Cassius Morris. Give him a follow on YouTube. Go check out his show on Watch Mojo, Inner Sleeve. And I'm very excited to talk to him. We had a great time. I was just on his podcast a couple weeks ago. And he honestly is. He's the future of podcasting. He's like, when kids play sports from a very young age and then they go pro in their early 20s and they're making like $30 million. And you say, well, it's not fair that they're 23 and making $30 million. But what you don't realize is that they have 15 years experience already being bad motherfuckers. And Cassius has close. I don't think it's quite at 10 yet. I think he's in his very early 20s. He's a very beautiful young man. And if you are in Canada and a young lady, you should hit him up. He would treat you nice, and he's lovely. But he might be too busy with work. So give him a space. Jeez, don't crowd him. Speaking of work, I want to talk about something that we put through a lot of stress and strain. Our balls. We do. We put our balls through a lot. And I am here to make your balls love you again. Because this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, as we've discussed. That's about 4 million balls, give or take. We don't know what's happened. We have an exclusive offer for you, the What Was I Thinking listeners. You get 20% off and free shipping when you use code Syatt. That's my last name, and you spell it Syatt. You get 20% off with free shipping when you use code Syatt at manscaped.com. And let me just show you, if you're new, I don't know where you've been, do me a favor. Go to manscaped.com and just check out what they have. I promise you, when you go there, you're going to love it. And I'll just show you what I have because I love all of it. I'm just going to open up with one of the free things they give you. If you get the Perfect Package 3.0, you get gifts. Who gives you a gift? I'll tell you who. When you go to get Chinese food and sometimes they put in a little egg roll or they put in an extra nugget at McDonald's? That's like the best day of your life, right? But it only happens once every 17 years. Manscaped is like, forget that. We're going to give you a gift on the first time. You won the lottery the first time. And you know what you get? The shed. Everything that I'm about to show you goes in this beautiful, soft, professional-looking package. This package protects your package. Okay? They didn't even write that. I wrote that on the spot. Let me just go over very quickly what comes in the Perfect Package. They have the Lawnmower 3.0 right here. It's a third-generation trimmer, and it features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. And skin-safe, by the way, trademark. Don't try it. This has a light. Listen to that. See, I just said listen to that, and I talked about a light. This will change your life. Now your balls and area look better. It's been a long year. It's been a really long year. Maybe you didn't take care of, you haven't had a haircut up here. and you definitely, I'm just shook the camera. You definitely have, if you haven't had a haircut up here, you definitely haven't had a haircut down here. And it is time to let everything breathe. Start over. You know when they have those videos of those cute little doggies they find on the street, but their fur is matted and dirty, and no one wants to adopt them, and they give them a little haircut, and they give them a little toenail clip, and then oh my goodness, look how happy, and then you want to cry. That's what we're doing for your balls, okay? We're gonna let somebody. I actually just saw in the news that they're expecting a huge STI spike now that the pandemic is ending. And if you want to be one of the lucky ones to have to go get a blood test, which I just did, and I'm negative, by the way, just putting it out there. Yay! If you want someone to adopt your balls, Manscaped, okay? You got to give them a haircut. And know what else you got to do? You have to protect against chafing. Chafing. Okay? And you know how you do that? You do that with the crop preserver, like this, right here. Listen to this. When people hear this, they know that your balls are going to smell and look great, because no one wants chafed balls. That hurts. It doesn't look good. You don't want to go on a first date with chafed balls. You got plans for that night. What are you going to do? Just sit very still in one position? Doesn't work. You got to be limber. I was thinking nimble, but I said limble. I mixed limber and nimble into one word, and because that's how good the crop preserver smells. But my favorite part, this is my favorite thing that they have. It's a crop reviver. Okay? This is the crop reviver. And this is for after the gym. You keep this on you at all times. Forget hand sanitizer. Well, maybe not. But this is something that if I were you, I would put in your pocket or your gym bag just every day. Because this is, the preserver is like an everyday use, okay? The preserver is your deodorant. Actually, yeah, it is an anti-shaving ball deodorant. See? Look at me. But the reviver is, oh no, someone wants my balls, and I don't know if they smell right. But now you do with the reviver. Look at that. Look how professional I am. It's the crop reviver. It makes your ball, it keeps them from sweating and smelling and sticking. And those are three things that you don't want to describe your balls. You want your balls, as the review I had said, had a clean mouth feel. Do you think sweaty, sticky, smelly balls have a clean mouth feel? No. You know what they do when those go into a mouth? A pit. They don't, you don't want that. You want, give me more of those balls. That's what you want. And that's going to happen with Manscaped. With the crop reviver, the crop preserver, and the lawnmower. You are an artist, okay? You're an agriculture artist, and instead of lawns, instead of landscaping, you're manscaping. See? Look at me. Look. Come on. That, you gotta admit, that was pretty good. Instead of landscaping, you're manscaping. It's the entire reason they named the company that, Lee. You're not that smart. You do get 2 free gifts. I already showed you. Bam, the shed, and they have silky smooth boxers, which I wear a lot and are currently in the wash. So I can't show you, but they're great. They're silky smooth. They're boxers. You want them on and around your balls. And everyone out there, if you have someone in your life who has balls, right? Everyone has someone in their life who has balls, okay? A loved one, a partner maybe. Father's Day is coming up. Just think about it. You love your dad, right? Do you want his balls to stink? Do you want someone to say, to your dad's balls? No. No one wants that. We love our fathers. And our mothers. By the way, Mother's Day is coming up. So whichever, honestly, it's a gift that keeps on giving. And if you give it to your dad, your mom's going to be happy, or your stepmom, his girlfriend, his boyfriend, your father. Anyone who likes your dad's balls is going to be very happy that you got that. And you're going to be happy because you saved 20% and got free shipping, which is all that matters. If you don't get free shipping, why are you ordering it? Am I an animal? Am I paying for shipping? No, not with me, not with Lee, and not with code Syatt at manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free shipping when you use code Syatt, SYATT, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using code Syatt. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you very much to Manscaped, and thank you, Cassius, for coming on and joining me on this week's What Was I Thinking? I'm so happy to have you on, and for those of you who don't know, and you should know, and you will know soon, this is Cassius Morris, and I was watching, I checked out an episode of You with Freddie Lockhart, and he had a very funny joke. He said, formerly that reporter kid, and now that reporter man.
Reporter man, that's it, man.
Do you still go by that reporter kid, or just Cassius Morris now?
I mean, if somebody remembers me in that way or wants to call me that, then that's great. But yeah, I mean, Cassius Morris has been pretty much since 2015, and I figured I wanted to change.
Really, it's been that long? It's been
sort of.
Wow.
But I mean, I was still I wanted to do it when I was still a kid because I didn't want to be like 17 and then have to deal with it.
Right.
I kind of wanted to ease the transition in. But yeah, I was just thinking of that the other day. I was like, that's funny that I used to be not even known by my name. I was known by like an alias. So yeah, that was a fun time, man. I think about that a lot.
I was just thinking, I was wondering, maybe he should have kept that reporter kid, and it would have been funny to be a 40-year-old man.
But I thought about it, man.
But it also could be kind of creepy because people, if they didn't know your background, they would wonder, why is he calling himself? Maybe we shouldn't leave Cassius alone with my child.
Yeah, what's going on with this guy over here? No, and I mean, I had to stylize it as all one word too, so it was confusing because people would always like write an article or something and they'd stylize it separately, so it would mess up the search engine. So I just kind of wanted to do away with it, and yeah, here we are.
Well, so how old are you now?
I'm 22.
22. God. That was how old I was when I moved to LA. Man. You were 9?
Yeah.
Wow, so that's 13 years.
Yeah.
That's 13 years. So you started it even before Rogan started it, I think.
Rogan was at episode 100.
Really? So he's been doing it for that long? I thought he started only a couple of years before Joey and I. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I remember is because one of the first things that really turned me on to the whole thing was episode 100 with him and Adam Carolla. And it was just a day where I was like, what's a podcast? Because that's what most people were asking in like 2009. And I clicked the thing on iTunes, and then that was the #1 episode. So I just pressed play, and that was one of the most, the best coincidences I ever had in my life, because it exposed me to Rogan and Carolla in one foul swoop, and Redman. So, that was pretty much it. Once I heard that, I was like 14, whatever. I heard the Fleshlight commercial, and I was like, people can talk this foul on the radio. And I was like, what the hell is this? And that was it, man.
Oh, so wait. So I'm going to write that down because I do want to give a couple of shout outs. But, So you had started 5 years before you heard Rogan? You said you started at 9.
No, I mean, I was 9 years old roughly when I heard episode 100 with Rogan and
Oh,
Carolla.
I thought you just said 14. Maybe that was a misspeak.
No, man. No,
okay.
That was when I changed my name. So like I had been doing it under that reporter kid, but then
so from 9 to 14 you were the kid, and then for the last
exactly.
8 years you've been Cassius Morris.
Exactly. It's hard. I have trouble following it myself some days.
No, trust me, I don't remember my own name sometimes, so it's fine. It's funny when you were talking, like that's how I found Joey. I found Joey on Rogan. I don't remember exactly what episode.
Yeah.
I do remember listening. I think I was driving back from Vegas, and I don't know if I knew him yet or not, but I remember the episode where Joey was talking shit about being on the internet and being on Twitter. And like, I don't need a cell phone. What do I need a cell phone for? But I remember I feel like a dinosaur because when I first found podcasts, it was 2010 or it might have transitioned to 2011 because I moved to LA in January. I got there in January of 2011. So it was
that's when they blew up too. Like Joey and I think all the stuff Joey and Redband and them did in like 2009, that was when it really blew. 2011 type of thing.
Got it. And I remember I didn't have a smartphone when I was driving cross country. I had an actual GPS unit. And I remember being in hotels because, and I would imagine it's probably similar in Canada in certain parts, but when you get away from the major cities, the radio options go way downhill.
Exactly.
And I was getting sick of, at least where I was, it was either mariachi music or literal preachers preaching.
Oh, that gets old quick if you're not, into that.
Oh yeah, and trust me, some mariachi music isn't bad. But I just stayed with my dad for 2 months, and I've also heard this from women that I've been with that I apparently I'm weird. I can't. If I'm doing something, I don't like stuff playing in the background. I do enjoy
like if you're editing or something?
Yeah, if I'm editing, working. If I'm cooking, I do like podcasts. I normally listen to podcasts at like work or when I'm driving. But go away. But I was never a huge music guy. I didn't have very many CDs. And what I brought up my dad because he made a joke when I was there. He said having me there was like living with a deaf person because I never had anything on, so I didn't have any CDs in the car when I was driving cross country, and I got sick of the radio. So I vividly remember me finding podcasts, and I would be interested. I guess you just told your story, but I was on Facebook in a hotel in I believe it was Arizona. And I was just sick. The past couple of days had just been almost driving in silence. And I was on Facebook, and it was either Doug Loves Movies or I believe it was Kevin Smith's Smodcast.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I believe it was Kevin Smith, and maybe he had Doug Benson on, or it was either one of those two ways. And I remember downloading them on iTunes. They didn't even have a podcast section. It would just go into the music section of iTunes, and then I had to have a USB for my iPod, and I transferred it to that, and then I didn't even I don't even think I had an aux cord. I think I had the tape thing that plugged into the headphone port of my iPod.
I barely even remember that. Because I wasn't using anything until aux cord.
Wow, yeah, I don't think I had aux. Maybe I did have aux cord, and I know at some points I did have the. They used to give you mini FM transmitters that you could connect to your devices, and you would just have to choose a station. It's so funny. I feel like I'm talking to. I feel like I'm from the past or the future, and you're just like, oh, how do you
Grandpa Lee?
How do you use a phone? But they used to make these mini FM transmitters, and so you would have to change them because occasionally, for example, maybe in Boston there's no 88.4. I'm just making that up.
Right.
But in Texas there might be, or something close to it, so other stuff would start bleeding in. And then if you drove by somebody else who was on a similar
You would hear their
co-
frequency or
you
something?
it would start going in and out. So
Weird.
I didn't like those FM transmitters. The tapes actually work great, to
Hmm.
be honest. Um, and you would just plug it in, and it was like a fake tape attached to a wire, and you would just put it into the tape player of your car.
Damn.
And now cars don't even have CD players. It's
Yeah,
so
they don't even have anything anymore. You just
it's
listen to it all through the air. It's crazy.
it's so funny.
And then we're gonna think that the fact that we were blown away by Bluetooth in 20 years, we're gonna think that we sound like, cavemen because we're like, listen to us. We were blown away by that simple stuff.
I wonder about that a lot. I wonder about if I ever have kids, what they'll look at me when I look at my parents. I'm like, how do you not know how to set something up on your DVR or something?
Right. Or
Or
send a Gmail or just simple stuff, but it seems simple to us.
and yeah, and my kids are gonna say, Dad, how do you not know how to teleport to
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's so simple. You just
Right.
go into your arm pad
Yeah.
and use Zenobe or something. I don't. I'm
Your
trying-
built-in chip and your
Yeah.
wrist that we all have now. It's funny though. I think that this is all changing. Like if you think about like the most popular social medias that first boomed, like Facebook, Twitter, really it's just blocks on a screen of either photo, video, or text. I don't think that that's going to be where this stays. Like I think that there's so much more potential for us to connect than just squares on a screen. So I think that like all this stuff is going to seem ancient to us probably within our lifetime even.
I was I was I was surprised that the Google glasses didn't take off.
Me too, man.
If
I was
it,
just thinking about that.
if I had money to invest in something, I would have absolutely invested in Google glasses, and
Hmm.
I'm not a big fan of putting stuff in my eyes, so I could never do contacts, but
Yeah.
I would love to be able to talk with somebody and know why they think they fit. I don't know if they were too expensive, but it
I
just
think they were too expensive, and I think that like it I saw a couple people wearing them and like everybody was staring at them when they're wearing it. And I think that it's one of those things that would have to become more easily accessible, maybe cheaper and more common for people to really. That's my theory on it. I don't know.
right. I wonder if maybe it was just too early. I forget. I think it was one
Probably.
of Ari Shafir's podcasts, and he was saying he spoke to somebody who worked in tech or something, and they told him, and I'm sorry, Ari, if it wasn't your podcast, but I think it was, and they told him that they have inventions like they're way ahead of where they are, but they
Mm.
part of their release strategy is knowing that if they release something too soon, it's gonna freak people out. We're
Mm.
only able to comprehend certain things, so they start real small, but they're
Right.
probably already 8 steps ahead of what's been released.
That
So
makes a lot of sense, actually.
I wonder, yeah, I would if you're listening and you know what episode that is that already said that, or if you can at least confirm that I'm right that was said.
Someone will know. Someone will remember. I have like a photographic memory with some of those episodes too. But that's a good point, Lee, because like think about it. It was like facial recognition, recording, yeah, and I feel like that and the Oculus Rift, because when the Oculus Rift first came out, to me that was something that only like friends of Joe Rogan got, like fucking Duncan Trussell. Like it was never something I figured that I could access. So I feel like it was, but now that product, it just now feels like it's sort of regular. It's weird.
Oh, I know. It feels regular. It's funny. My dad actually just got me not an Oculus Rift. It was one of the earlier Oculuses, which is fine. It's still cool. But
Mhm.
I remember when those first started coming out, they had setups in the mall where you
Oh,
could try them or like do some virtual reality stuff, and then people started to get herpes of the eye because
oh,
people are animals, and if they have eye herpes, they don't tell anybody. And
holy
they
shit! I can't believe I felt so bad scratching my eye right at that moment. I should have
oh
waited.
yeah, yep. No, now you got eye herpes.
Now I have
Um,
herpes.
But so you heard episode 100 with Rogan,
Mhm.
and you decided you wanted to do something like it. You decided you wanted to host your own podcast.
Yeah, that was basically the tipping point. I had heard a few shows that were about Kiss, and a few shows that were generally about rock, and that was my very first exposure. But in terms of being like, okay, I want to find out what this world is all about and who these guys are and potentially jump in. Yeah, that was the Rogan, and I mean the mixture of Rogan, Corolla, and Red Band. It was just like yeah, I want to hear more of this because this is something that my parents won't tell me and my friends won't know about. So it was like sitting at the adult table at that age.
Right, and it's funny. The second time he brought Red Band up, I do. I said this to his face on at least a podcast. I remember the first time I actually saw Red Band. I think I was working. I don't even think we had started the church. I think maybe I was just editing the Mad Flavors World videos for him.
Hmm.
Um, but I went to see somebody at the Ice House. It was probably Joey, and it was when Red Band had his studio at the Ice House.
At the Ice House, right?
And I saw Red Band just walking around, and I was completely starstruck.
Yeah, man. The
Oh
guy,
yeah,
it was a huge deal, especially at that time. Like it, I remember when I first talked to him too. I was like, "Holy shit," because it
yeah,
was like the forefront of something new.
yep. And I remember a similar thing happened. My favorite place in L.A. Is a movie theater that Quentin Tarantino owns, and
Right.
the first time I went there, they usually play double features. The first time I went, David Carradine had just passed away, who I didn't know too much of, but he was in Kill Bill, so I liked him in that. And they were playing a
Right.
David Carradine triple feature,
Damn.
and I went by myself. And in the first movie, Tarantino has a very distinctive laugh, so I heard him
Mhm.
laughing, and I turned around and I
Mhm.
saw him. He was with a lady. Um, I don't know if it was his wife, girlfriend, friend, whatever. They weren't making out or anything, but they were just watching the movies. And in between the first and the second movie, some people went up to talk to him, and I couldn't even get out of my seat. And
Hmm.
then for the entire, I don't even remember what movies were playing, because for the entire second movie,
You're thinking
I
about it.
was I was working up the courage to go say something to him,
I know
and
exactly what you mean.
and I somehow worked up the courage, and I went up over there shaking, and I remember I went up, I was like, I don't even, I don't even know. He looked at me, and I went, I just want to say, you're why I'm in LA. I love, and he wasn't, I didn't want to be a director, but I was trying to think of someone to say.
You
He was
wanted
very
something to
nice.
say.
He was very nice. They're like, oh, thank you, and I ran away like a scared little girl, but I couldn't. I didn't. I had that same nervous feeling, but Red Band wasn't sitting there for hours. He was just walking about, go get a
Just
drink or
going
something,
around,
and
yeah.
come back.
And he must have been
Um,
busy because he was dealing with so many comics and a
yeah,
show on stage.
he was producing a podcast and a show at the same time, and he was just either going to the bathroom or getting a drink. So I didn't get to say hi to him then, but he it's weird. I actually feel very similar to Red Band. He worked at a movie theater. And I know that's so silly to think, but I worked at a movie theater,
Mm.
and he has a very goofy sense of humor. And
Mm.
I know sometimes on Rogan he got like they had the O'Brien moments or
Yeah.
whatever
Good times.
yeah, like they named it. But I think he did that for a reason. I think he was trying to lighten it up sometimes. And some
Hmm.
people, you're never going to do something and everyone's going to like it. But
No.
even without that, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's done for podcasting as a whole. Because I wouldn't have had my job with Joey without him. Like,
Dude,
not
absolutely. I
even an
mean,
option. And he he's a goofy guy, and he likes to be silly, and he's I don't know, maybe a 13-year-old man in a 40-something-year-old body, but
he'll be the first to tell you that.
oh yeah, he loves it. I mean, he's a I hope I'm still having as much fun as he has
Yeah,
in
man.
like 10 years when I'm his age or whatever, however old he is now. Um but I just I honestly feel like Red Band is the first podcast producer. I feel like there's a lot of he's gonna have a lineage the same way, and this is a extreme example, but the same way a lot of people, when they say, "Well, who is your favorite comic?" and they ask comics that, and they talk about Carlin or Pryor,
Hmm.
they're gonna talk about. I mean, maybe even he's the Lenny Bruce. He might be the Lenny Bruce and be like the first
Dude,
podcast
he's like,
producer.
he's like the Gary Delabate from Howard Stern. Like he's probably surpassed that and you're making a great point. Because if you think about it, like he laid the foundation for not only the one biggest podcast known to us now, like multiple, like he laid the foundation for Your Mom's House. He laid
Hmm.
the foundation for Joe Rogan. And like these are things
Ari,
that
he
are
did Ari. He
Ari,
did
like, and this is
Sam
not
Tripoli.
happening, dude. Like it's hard to overstate the impact of Red Band because the format that he was at the forefront of creating is what is the standard today. So I agree, man. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit. And even Kill Tony, what they're doing now, still
Yeah,
always trying to evolve it and change it, not do the same thing, which I appreciate too. It gets
right.
old after a while with some content.
It does get old, and then just from my perspective, I got very lucky, just to work with Joey, but then, and I'm not totally downplaying. I had my impact on the show, but it was
Of
Joey's
course.
show. But I've also I've been on multiple other shows that either mine or other people's that took that had varying levels of success, but were never top podcasts outside
Right.
of that. And I mean,
Same.
Red Band had multiple um top 100 podcasts,
Yeah.
and now he's done it again with Kill Tony, and they're, I mean, making a great living touring and doing a live podcast, which I guess I'll bring that up in a bit, but because you did a live podcast for a while, but live podcasting is not, it's not a completely different format,
Mhm.
I guess, but it it's not the same as in a studio or in an apartment podcasting. It's
No.
the audio is a lot harder to control. You also have to get guests to come out as opposed to coming out in like the middle of the day. You also have to get the audience to come out.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Oh,
Um
it's not easy, man. Like
right.
for the live podcast I was doing, it was I actually almost forgot we did it because we promoted it way more than we actually did. We did like four of them. And it just like it
Oh,
just was
I thought you did them for months. That's funny.
we kind of like we tried, but it just we never really got audiences at a lot of them. And like the club, they didn't really seriously promote it. But for like it was one of those weird things where like there was banners and advertisements for it all over the internet for a long time. So I
Right.
feel like it was one of those weird things. But it never really took off. So that it sort of ended up being me just doing a regular podcast with the comics. Like sometimes we do it on the stage, but it wasn't in front of a crowd. So we kept the comedy club feel, and that's why you probably saw a lot of pictures of me at the club. But yeah, for a lot of those, we just kind of gave up on the audience aspect and just use it as a set, which was cool. Like I appreciated being able to do that. Like shout out to Rick Bronson. It was great to work with him. But yeah, that's funny to remember that.
Right. That's funny. I um I I want to talk to you about, because I've been doing, I've done it for years, but I never really seriously promoted it. I've been doing a lot of consulting the last few months,
Yeah.
because I need to pay my bills. But I actually really do enjoy it. I actually enjoy it more than I do producing podcasts,
Hmm.
um, because when I produce a podcast, there's a lot of moving parts, and you're so focused on everything technically going right and keeping the conversation going,
Yeah.
and then you have to edit and post it. And what I really enjoy about, because I've thought about opening up a space,
Hmm.
but the issue with opening up a space in my eyes is A, the overhead of the equipment, B, the rental cost, which, because of that, you have to charge a decent amount
Yeah.
for people to use the space, even taking out my time as a producer and an editor. But just the rent and the equipment costs, you have to break even. You have to charge upwards of 80 to probably for video over 100 an hour for an episode,
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
and um because of especially now with Zoom, there's just such more less expensive ways to do podcasts now. When you and I started, yeah, you did have to have a board or a Zoom and real mics. But now there's Anchor and you can do it directly from your phone.
Right.
And I just my opinion, I enjoy the consulting because I have access to everyone around the world from wherever I want to be with just an internet connection instead of being located in one spot and um I just think, and I could be wrong, because I did podcasts for UFC guys and for real estate agents, and they did them
Hmm.
for a while and they paid me decent money, but um they all of them ended up stopping or taking long breaks because it's a lot of money to invest in something when you very easily could be doing it yourself. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's true too.
that's why I do
Especially
it.
with the tools now, because like at that time there was less tools, but now it's a different landscape even.
Oh, it's completely different. But the reason why I brought all that up is I talked to a lot of people who were or are, I guess, essentially in the same place that you were when you started. Uh, I guess it would be what 8 years ago, 9 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah, with what I'm doing now.
Um, and it really is, especially now or anytime, to build any sort of content without a pre-existing following is very hard
It's the
because
hardest thing you could do.
right, because there, I mean, even and some people might be saying, oh, well, when Cassius started there weren't as many. That's true, but there were also not as many people who knew about podcasts.
Oh my
So
God. I mean, trying to tell someone you did a podcast was like you were speaking a different language because no one knew what that meant. So you'd have to say
right.
online radio show.
Yeah, I said internet. That's funny. I always said internet radio.
You had no choice,
Yeah,
you know?
and they thought you were a crazy person. Um,
Right. So they're like, oh, so you talk to yourself. It's like, no, actually, there's some people who check this out now. Like,
right. Oh yeah, I know. But it's funny because, and I get it because I'm the same way. A lot of people who are much older than you, uh, get kind of negative about it,
yeah.
and they a lot of people, myself included, before this, give up on podcasts.
Hmm.
How how did you build an audience?
Man, good question. Tough question. I think the first thing was just do a little bit of research. Like, I don't think anyone has to go to post secondary for this. You don't even need to take a full course. Just read some blogs and just find what resonates with you based on what you want to do. So, the first thing that interested me was the band Kiss. So I started reading that a niche podcast where you talk about a specific thing can be really good to build a following. So
Right.
I just started doing that. Because I didn't even have the thought process, oh, people don't know me, but they know this. But that just happened to be the case. So it gave me the opportunity to post my content on Kiss forums, Kiss Facebook groups, blogs, places where I could get eyes on it that I normally wouldn't get. So that would be like my advice to anybody. Like, try to rely on what you're talking about. And now there's things on TikTok where you just post a clip of your podcast and it's three guys talking. No one knows who they are and no one cares, but it has 2 million likes because they just had a funny, punchy little exchange and it was entertaining. So it's like, yeah, it's actually so much easier because you can just put hashtag kiss on TikTok and you got the world at your fingertips. But to answer your question, that was the main way to try to do that. And then when I started branching out, I still tried to keep it contained. Like when I started interviewing comedians, I tried to make it more the Death Squad, guys in your scene out in LA. So yeah, that would be the main thing. Keep it contained a little bit.
Right. Okay. And were you having guests on at that point, or was all solo episodes?
When I started, it was all solo, and then I had a co-host who was like a couple years older than me. Like I was a kid, like 10, she was like 12, 13 or whatever. Some girl from Chicago. Shout out to Sapphire. But so we did that. We would just talk, and then eventually I started having guests, and I had like we just started off this. That's the other thing. Start off as small as you can. If your passion is Kiss, don't start off on the week one emailing Gene Simmons' publicist. Start as small as you can to somebody that may know the band. Like if you were to go to Gene Simmons, you know this guy, it might ring a bell. Talk to that guy because that is how you start getting in. So like Kiss had a Monopoly game and I looked at the guy who did the artwork for it and I hit him up and we did an interview. So like that was my first interview. So like just to give people perspective, fast forward 6 years later, I'm interviewing Kiss. So it's like that's how you start. I just heard the term the other day that was really good. Network equals net worth. Not that I'm made money by any means, but that the network is really what you're banking on because that's the connection.
Wow. See, you just dropped some major knowledge there,
Got to drop
Cassius.
some knowledge for my man Lee. Come on now.
That was and so did in any way, I mean obviously your podcast got bigger because of it and but did to just address that, did your interviewing that art guy, can you like trace that back to a part of the reason why you got Kiss and Gene,
Mm-hmm.
or oh, so did he introduce, did the art guy introduce you to someone else, or like
No,
how
but it's indirectly. So, because I was able to email the next person and say, I've interviewed the artist for Kiss Monopoly.
right,
And then once they said yes, then I just keep it going. So, really, and you always try to contact people where it can be used as a jumping off point for the next one. And you could sort of map it out in your head, you know, which is my technique now. Like back then, I can't say that I was thinking of it in those terms. I think I just had this sense of just get whatever you can take.
right.
But yeah, I think that's how it worked out, you know?
And it's funny, because I agree with you to not get to go after bigger name people. A, because at the beginning, there's a few reasons. A, they're not bigger name people are not gonna mess with you if they don't think that you're gonna do anything for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it sounds mean, but it's just their time is so valuable that if they look at your Instagram and they see you have 30 followers, they're like, oh, he's getting 8 listens. I don't. Why am I gonna spend
Mm-hmm.
an hour of my time with him?
It's a
Um,
business.
yeah, it is. So there's that. Also, just let's imagine you do get him. You're a you're gonna be a better host when you have a lot more experience.
Exactly.
And C, and this is because I didn't follow my own advice. By the time people listen to this, it will already be out. But speaking of TikTok, when I started, I had the idea for my waistline podcast, my weight loss podcast, driving down to Florida to be with my dad. And I
Mm-hmm.
told him about it. He was on the radio for 25 years. He loved the idea, but I kept procrastinating. And there is a guy named Shane Wally. On and I found him on Instagram, but on TikTok he has like 3 million people.
Yeah, I've heard of
And
that. Heard
yeah,
of his name.
he's a Canadian. He's a really nice. He's an amazingly nice dude. Very positive. He's a bigger guy, but he's lost over 100 pounds. He still has more to lose. He's not, and I only say that just because I've interviewed people who have gotten to their goal weight yet.
Right.
He hasn't reached his goal yet, but I reached out to him, and he doesn't even know this. He'll know this now if he listens. I'm sorry, Shane, but I reached out to him thinking that it would take a little bit to get him on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'd be going back and forth. I would have a chance to start my podcast, stuff like that.
Right.
He unbelievably he has 3 million on TikTok and like 180 or 175,000 on Instagram.
Oh,
Within a day, replied to my message on Instagram. Put
damn.
me in contact with his agent. And within 3 or 4 days, they agreed to be on the. He already had agreed, but his agent just had a couple questions,
Mm-hmm.
and when and then so it's like when you apply to a job, that you're always, to you, it's the most important thing, so you want to hear back immediately. And I didn't hear back for 3 or 4 days from the agent, and I think it might have even been over a weekend, which explains part of it. But
Mhm.
I just assumed that because I literally had no episodes up of it,
Right.
I hadn't done it yet. So
Yeah.
I just assumed that when I sent them the information, they decided they weren't interested. Um, and the agent ended up getting back to me, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to have him on." And I interviewed him, and it's in current times, it's coming out tonight, tomorrow morning.
Mhm.
But I decided the reason I said all that is I didn't follow my own advice, and the third reason,
Hmm.
one of the biggest reasons, not in my opinion, not to have super big people on at the very beginning, even let's assume you do have a following, and let's assume you are a good host. If you don't have a lot of content or any content on the feed for people to go back to, you're not fully taking advantage of having them on as a guest,
That's a good point too.
because people binge all this stuff, especially if they like it. So
Yeah.
when I interviewed him, he was the first interview I did, but I specifically was like, okay, I'm gonna do 2 just myself, introducing myself to the audience. Even though right now most of the people listening do know me, but I'm hoping that my guests will bring other people. And then I did an
Right.
episode with a comedian buddy of mine in LA. So now when I have Shane on tomorrow, it's still not as much as I would have liked, but at least, because I don't want to have it be 6 months between recording
No,
and releasing, because he'll
but
forget
just
about
a
it.
buffer period
But
of
yeah,
some sort.
but I did tell him, I said it's gonna be 3 weeks until I release your episode. So
Right.
but now, just the fact that there's 3 episodes before him,
Mm-hmm.
I made up a little bit for not following my own advice. But
Yeah.
it's tough because I don't know. I mean, well, we've already talked about Gene, but how many, like, if for people who might not have listened to your show,
Mm-hmm.
who are some of your, like, your top favorite guests that you somehow, that you were, and if you have like a story or two for how you were able to get those guys, like, how did that, do you have anything like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many at this point. I mean, my one of my favorites in recent times was David Coverdale from White Snake and Deep
Wow.
Purple. Yeah, I mean, he's like royalty to me. I don't know how he's not knighted and stuff, but I mean, just a great guy, all around a gentleman. I had to email at least 7 times to even get a response, and then
Him or
once
his
I got
agent?
his agent, yeah, at the
Okay.
label, and then once I got a response from the label, it was from my first request to the interview, it was a 6-month time span.
See, that's what I was expecting. So I think I got lucky with the first couple of good guests I got. But
Dude, yes,
so
like it happens.
how did you go about so, like, even like for him or for anyone, how do you go about finding agents? How do you go find out how to get in contact with them?
Some, like, you can sometimes you get lucky and they'll have it on their Facebook, have it on their website, etc. It's about 50-50 in terms, like, you'll be surprised who has it. But for the ones who don't, if you do some digging, you can find it. If you really need it, there's services that you can subscribe to get the information. But at the end of the day, that doesn't do you any good, because you can have the information all you want. If you don't have the proper show, they're not doing anything. So it's a gamble. But I've started using some of those resources just because it's really good to get in touch with folks. So yeah, it's just, you have to be crafty with it. Sometimes you just guess. Like, sometimes if you can't find it, I'll put their initial of their first name and their last name at their company website. Sometimes I'll just guess it right. Like, you just got to be a detective.
That's funny. I want to know who, but I'm not going to ask because I don't want their email to get spammed.
Just so many, man.
But do you have, because I'll just tell you, and if you agree, hopefully I'm not stealing your answer, but when people ask me how to contact people like that, I have developed, at least for me, a little form.
Yes.
I try to keep it very short. B,
Mm-hmm.
I always I sort of butter them up a little bit. So for example, I'll say, "Hi Cassius, my name is Lee. I've been podcasting for 9 years. I love your show, the Cassius Morris Show. I listened to your episode with Gene Simmons, and I loved when you asked him about his tongue. I don't know. I don't know if you did that or not,
Oh
but
my
like
God, I'm feeling
I'll
good. What do you need? Anything?
exactly. But like I'll listen to just a bit so I could reference it, and
Yeah.
then I'll say, if you're interested, I'd love to have you on my show. Blah 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 blank blank blank. I think it would be great for you to promote that whatever. Uh, if not, no worries. I look
Hmm.
forward to talking soon, Lee. Because a lot of times people get emails, and I've gotten some myself, and it's like they wrote a book report, kind of explaining their whole life, and
Right.
I think a lot of people aren't reading that. So, uh,
No, they're not.
do you what is your advice for when you send those emails?
Man, I think you hit it on the head with the being brief. Really, that's what I try to tell people. You're not their friend. They don't know who you are, and they don't really care who you are. What they care about is what can you do for them? What can you do for their client? In terms of an art, like a label or a publicist, that's all they care about. So that's all you need to tell them. If they ask you more, then obviously tell them. But yeah, you don't need to describe really much other than who you've had on your show and a couple other things. I mean, definitely consulting is something I've been thinking of too, Lee. Like it's because there is a science to this stuff, and I think that a lot of people go about it the wrong way, but that's the main key. You want to keep it brief and be I think it always comes back to just being very specific about what you want. If you
Okay.
send an email explaining who you are and stuff, like, they're still sort of wondering what you want. So,
Yeah, exactly. And what is your? And I won't tell you my idea. I'll tell you if I agree or have a different approach. But
okay.
what is your um game plan for either if they A don't respond or B say they're not interested right now? How often are you reaching back out?
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends. I mean, a lot of the time people, especially now that I've really built it up to a point that there's more of a conversation with a lot of guests, because before it was a lot more of a long shot, but now we're getting there. A lot of people just say they don't have anything to promote right now, my client. So just reach back out when you see that they have an album or when you see something. Some of them will add me to the press list so that we'll call you, don't call us, and you'll get
Right.
the automatic emails. And then other times they just are not interested, and really I appreciate when someone just tells me they're not interested, because I've had people who dance around it, and I'm like, we're all adults here, now, thank God. Uh, so you can tell me no, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess what I would say is, don't rely on any guest. Just because you sent the email, don't start thinking what you're going to ask them. Don't start thinking about how cool it's going to look on your Facebook. Just sort of act as if nothing happened and keep sending them out, and you'll get someone.
Right. My only thing that I would add to that is like this is actually how I got into college. Is I found the email address for the guy reading my application,
Mm,
and I emailed him at least once a month. And it was funny. I was talking about this with Josh Potter, and when you're new or you're young, or even if you're not younger but you're naive, you'll do things that looking back on it I wouldn't do now. And
exactly.
I know that emailing once a month, he probably let me into the school just because he was so annoyed with me,
Hmm.
which is not a you don't want someone you're interviewing being annoyed with you. So
But it works.
it definitely does. So I always tell what I tell people is there's a fine line for me between persistence and annoyance, and
Yes.
I like to give it like a 2 to 3 month rotation, and
Yeah.
I'll reach back out and say, hey, Lee, reaching out again. I listened to your episode with Freddie Lockhart, and just so you know, I've had X, Y, and Z on recently, and my numbers uh, risen by 30%. And if you're
Hmm.
interested, I would love to have you on. Um,
Yeah.
and so like because and I guess to follow that up with, in my opinion, even harder than growing an audience, or just as hard, is booking and getting guests is probably the most frustrating and hardest part about podcasting, because
Very time consuming.
Very time consuming. And then B, like, even with Joey, I'll even take myself out of it. Even with Joey, there'd be people. There were multiple times that we'd be sitting at the studio. The guest was supposed to be there 10 minutes ago, and then Joey gets a text or a call, and they say, "Sorry, man, I got an audition," or "Sorry, man, my house is on fire," or whatever they say, and and guests flake. So I'm a big believer in, again, annoyance versus persistence, but being persistent, because you never know. Like, you could email somebody, and even if they said no 4 or 5 times, they might not have a guest for that week's episode, and they're like, "Fuck it, fine."
Totally. They might be like, "Oh, that guy's been emailing us. Let me go hit him up." I mean, to add to what you're saying, I think it's the fine line that we're talking about here, I think, is, for me at least, is knowing when to do which one. So, for example, if let's say I meet you at the Comedy Store, Lee. I love the church, love your show, The Waistline. I'm a huge fan. Would love to have you on my podcast. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it current here. I'd love to have you on my podcast. And then you follow me on Instagram, and you say DM me. If I was to DM Lee once a week to his personal phone, that would be extremely inappropriate, because you're bothering Lee, and that's not how you get to Lee. However, when you look at me with the David Coverdale assistant, I was emailing her like every week and a half, because that woman, or anybody in that line of work, they are paid for one reason: to answer my email. That's the only reason they have a job. So it's like, with those people, I will email them day, morning, noon, and night until they answer, because it is their job to answer. So I would say if it's like a record label or something, just email until they friggin' answer, because it's true. Like, I'll tell you, Lee, like, I've even tried to interview like presidents.
Wow. Of Canada or America?
America. I went all in. And
did you ever get a response from their office?
Man, I emailed for a year and a half, and I finally got a response.
From which president's office?
And not that I like any president. I'm not even in America, but it was for the most recent president.
Okay.
For 45th president. Not that I'm championing him at all.
No,
but,
it's fine.
Definitely an interesting guy to talk to. And
so why's your background red then, Cassius?
Yeah, what is this? Hold on a second. But yeah, like, so I couldn't believe that, like, I got a response to that, but it was only from persistence. And even when this guy's not the president, I'm emailing for the current president, but I'm also talking to former presidents. You know what I mean? So it's like,
what was the response? I mean, obviously I don't think it happened, but did they say?
No, the interview didn't happen. No, the response, and I guess, maybe I shouldn't say it, whatever. It was off the record, Cassius. A Zoom interview would not be possible. Thank you, the office of Donald J. Trump.
What do you mean off the record? I mean,
I don't know what that means.
It's written down. I mean,
that's
on the
what
record.
I mean.
That's funny.
Just that little bit of language. All I'm gonna say is this: there was a time, and it's been verified, that Donald Trump was posing as his own publicist and calling into magazines.
Oh yeah, I've heard of people doing that before.
Remember that? So I don't know that.
I didn't hear about that with him, but I've heard about other people doing it. That's funny.
Yeah, and there's tapes of him doing it. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, man. So it was weird.
Yeah, you got. I mean, you're a one-man band. It's really. I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, but it's also part of me misses the times when I had a boss, and they even before Joey on TV shows or my minimum wage jobs, then they'd be like, "Go stock popcorn," and I go, "Okay," and then I know what I have to do, and it's 5:02, goodbye, and
right.
I
robotic.
I actually have a girl that I'm meeting in 2 days, but we've been talking for about a week, and then when I start having sex, I'm not doing this podcast ever again. But
it'll be over.
Yeah, it'll definitely be over. But she even asked me, because I I've been doing some consultations at like late at night because I had a bunch in Australia and they're 12 or 14
Hmm.
hours ahead of me. Um,
Right.
so I had to do them at like 11 o'clock at night a couple times. And uh, she asked me, she said, do you take full days off or do you have to just take like moments off? And
Hmm.
the only, what I said was, recently it's just been moments. Like I haven't had a full day off. Even, and I said like that's why, because I really do enjoy doing the long drives that I take, because
Right.
it forces me. And I did a consultation from a hotel room in Baltimore, but
Hmm.
I for those chunks, those 10-12 hour driving chunks are the longest time uh like straight that I've had completely to do nothing.
Yeah.
Even if it's just posting on social media, which sounds like an easy job, and it is, but it's still, you still have to like put links down, and you're hoping the post gets a good amount of likes or whatever. So um, I mean you so I and the I guess the last thing I want to talk with you about is, so you, and I'll just take them through, because I was gonna ask you, but um we covered it before, and I'll take them through the journey of Cassius Morris as I remember it, and I'll take them to where you are now. Is,
Hmm.
I remember, so you had that reporter kid in the Cassius Morris Show. I remember you also worked at a comedy club and was doing it live out of there. I
Hmm.
remember you also co-hosted a radio show for a while,
Yeah.
and now, and you worked at a liquor store. That's not really podcast related, but but
I'm going to talk about that soon, though, on a little featurette episode. I'm going to talk about that.
okay. But
Yeah.
now, at the age of 22, you're essentially like, when you look at like a professional athlete who has been training his whole life and is a professional in their young early 20s, is that's essentially what you did. Is you were amateur for many years, but now you are officially a professional making your living podcasting. uh Not, what's the word I want to use? Talent, I guess talents, or what's the word? It doesn't matter. But you're making your living podcasting, and I was supposed to ask you before because I saw two different names. Is it Watch Mojo or Sound Mojo? I thought it was Sound, but I thought I saw it listed
Yeah,
as
it's
Watch.
so yeah, I was hired by Watch Mojo to work on a division called Sound Mojo, which is their
Okay,
music division.
got it. Okay, so I was right.
You were right.
So you are now, and you also, I would imagine, are able to monetize to some degree your own podcast.
Yeah.
But talk uh, about Sound Mojo, and how, maybe how, to whatever degree you're allowed to, how you were able to get your like actual first legit like professional podcasting gig.
Yeah, well, thanks by the way, Lee. I mean, I really appreciate that, man. Especially coming from you. It was a really interesting thing because they basically just posted an ad, I mean, on their community tab. And I mean, they're a massive channel. I've been following Watch Mojo for a lot of years and always been a big fan. So they posted this thing saying that they were looking to maybe dip their toe into podcasts, and they were looking for someone who was musically inclined and also inclined to podcasts. So I was like, yeah, this definitely has my interest. So basically, I reached out right away and I got in touch with them, and I didn't expect to hear anything back. Their core YouTube channel has like 23 million subscribers, so I figured
Wow.
yeah, they're a massive company. So I figured there'd be a lot of people emailing them, which there was. But I got in touch with them, and then I thought I was applying for a show that they had preset, but it actually turned out that they were looking to hire someone to create a music show with them, which is I think a really rare opportunity that you see a company of that size giving people such freedom within the company to do things. So I was actually really happy to hear that, and it made me more interested because, like, most of those situations, you're just being given a script and you say what the hell they want you to say when they want you to say it. With us, I mean, I helped them come up with the name, I helped come up with the artwork, I helped book the guests. Like for the trailer that we did, I wrote it, you know what I mean? So it's just been a really fulfilling experience, and also it's opening up to other positions sort of within the company that we'll talk about soon. But yeah, it's just been amazing, man. It's really been good.
And so I'm not asking. I know I'm Jewish, but I'm not asking for a specific dollar amount. But you're making your entire living now off of podcasting.
At this point, yeah. I mean, what happened in Canada was that every citizen, basically who was working at all, gets some form of subsidy. So basically, when I get a check from there, the government almost matches the check in essence.
Wow.
Yeah, which
I
is
wish I was
very
Canadian.
right, which is very rare, very very rare. Which is again a reason. So basically, what I did was I did what I had to do. If it wasn't for the pandemic, funny enough, I probably wouldn't be making quite enough to fully live. I mean, now in the next couple of weeks, I will be, but if the last
Nice,
couple months,
dude.
no, you know what I mean? But so yeah, I was able to get by through that, and now I've actually evolved it to where we're looking at doing another series. We're looking at doing other stuff. So the government not really even a factor anymore. So
Dude, I'm so happy for it. And I was gonna say proud,
thanks,
but
man.
but I mean it's just cool. I mean it's honestly it's motivating for me because I'm not. I mean I guess I could rent a shitty room somewhere, but I'm not making enough. I'm not making enough money to like live on my own right now. Um,
Hmm.
but over the past few months, it went from a little bit to a little bit more to breaking even, and now I'm like maybe this month I might turn a little profit. So by
Right.
the by the
Same
end
here, man.
by the end of this pandemic, I'm hoping to have it at a place where I don't know if I'll be making what I used to make, or I definitely won't be making what I want to make. But I'm hoping that by the end of this pandemic, I'll be able to do what you did and grow all of this stuff to a place where it's what I do full time. Like
Yeah, man.
I mean, you worked in a liquor store over the pandemic. I've delivered for Postmates. I've delivered for Amazon. I've what else have I done? I've delivered groceries.
Hmm.
So it's I
No,
get
it's tough,
you
man.
got to do a lot of stuff when to make ends meet, but it's awesome. So what's the name of the show you're doing for Sound Mojo?
It's called Inner Sleeve, and it's every single week. I'm not sure exactly who I can announce, but I put a post up saying we interviewed one of the biggest producers of all time. So anybody who's a fan of U2, all I'm going to say is don't miss that episode. But Lee, I just wanted to add, for inspiration to anybody, like the liquor store was a good job for me. Six and a half months ago, I was washing dishes in a restaurant, and I didn't have a job at Sound Mojo or Watch Mojo, and I wasn't making a cent off what I was doing. And right now, I'm in a position where I'm able to do it, but that doesn't mean in 2 months I won't be. So I won't have to go back to doing something else. So it's right now is a really important position where every day I'm trying to expand what I do and thinking it's better than fucking washing dishes because I've
Yeah.
been there. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah. So I think it's just about really running with it, trying to level it up. Like I'm running the Sound Mojo TikTok. So that's part of my job now. And I'm just trying to find anything I can do, man. But, mostly I just appreciate you giving me the platform and asking me these questions. Let me get it out there.
Well, I love talking to you. So I'll run down what I know, and if I miss anything, just tell me. So you have the Inner Sleeve
Mhm.
podcast comes out what day
Every
usually?
single Thursday.
Every single Thursday. On the is there a specific Inner Sleeve
You can
account
subscribe to
or
Sound
okay?
Mojo, but even if you're on Watch Mojo, they'll post the updates every single week as well.
And the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and stuff.
Yes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can get your shows, basically.
And there's the Cassius Morris Show, which comes out when that I was just a
That
guest
comes
on.
out once a week. It's usually Monday or Tuesday we try to do, but we have Lee, who just was our most recent guest on the show. I mean, we have all types of archived episodes with comics, Ryan Sickler, Joey Diaz, all that good stuff.
And your why don't you tell people what your social medias are?
Totally. You can follow me on Instagram at Cassius Morris _. And the show is on all social media at Cassius Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And my mains are pretty much just my name. So if you can spell my name, you can find me. And hopefully more stuff with Lee coming up soon, man, because it's been overdue. And it's been really good talking with you these last couple of days, man. I'm just missed hearing your voice.
It's been great to talk to you. And just so for people, that was very mysterious. If you can spell my name, it's Cassius Morris, Morris. You're like,
I figured if they're here, they're on the right track.
If you want to spell my name, you gotta Google me, bitch.
You gotta Google that.
But thank you so much, Cassius. I love talking to you, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm sure one day I'll be applying to you for a job. So keep your eye out for my short but concise email.
You're the man. Short and concise. We labeled it right here. There you go, man.
Thank you very much to Cassius Morris for joining me on What Was I Thinking. His Twitter is at Cassius Morris, CassiusMorris. He is the host of the Cassius Morris Show, The Inner Sleeve on Watch Mojo, and my very good friend. So thank you very much to Cassius for coming on. Thank you for listening. When you see me next week, I will be in my new office. There might be one more full episode that I recorded in my mom's house, but the intro and outro, which will be from the new office, and then also YouTube. I'm gonna be called the YouTube Kid. Every week there's gonna be new YouTube videos up there, not just the podcast. So please go check it out. It's youtube.com/Lee Syatt, and I'm excited to we're pumping it up. I'm sorry, I can't. I've done this so many times, and I am not starting again. So I'm leaving that terrible Arnold impression in there. Sorry, but that I promise that won't be on YouTube. I'm very excited to move into the office. I think it's the start of a lot of great things. I want to give a very quick shout out to everyone who made that possible on my Patreon, patreon.com/Lee Syatt. This week we have a mastermind coming up. We do either movie nights or hangouts every Friday where we just talk. The hangouts are honestly almost better than the movie nights. We got like 15, 20 people in there. We just shoot the shit for about an hour and a half. I get a little stoned sometimes, and we giggle. What else is better than that? And to everyone who has done podcast consulting with me, thank you. I am on Fiverr, and I'm about to relaunch my own personal website. So, thank you. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you helping out my sponsor, Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and you use code word Syatt, SYATT, and you get 20% off with free shipping. That's right. Go to manscaped.com. Just check it out. Honestly, look at the Perfect Package 3.0. That's the best deal they're going to give you. And they give you 2 free gifts. They give you the shed, the carrying case, and they give you the silky smooth boxers. It's amazing. It's soft. Your balls are going to smell great. My balls are going to thank you because it allows me to buy more Manscaped. So just go to manscaped.com, use code Syatt, and you get Syatt, SYATT, and you get 20% off with free shipping, and that's at manscaped.com, code Syatt, SYATT. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you very much for watching and or listening. It's been a great start. I guess, is it the first quarter? Nope, the first third. Listen to that. We're almost done with the first third of 2021, and the second third. God, quarters is really better. We're about to start the second third of this year, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you for being my friend, and I look forward to talking to you next week on What Was I Thinking. Bye, guys.